Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Hello, Moon to Moon. It's Britton, and I'm coming to you with a beautiful, contemplative, meditative, and profound conversation on the possibilities of connecting to your inner authority through the keeping of community. This conversation is with two alums from Magician's Table 2024 last year. They were in the same cohort with 13th reader Nicole Francisco. I've known both of them for quite a few years now. We share how we initially connected in our conversation. This conversation is really a form of medicine for remembering how to honor the experiences that we invest with our time, our money, our hearts, our spirits. We show up to them and they give back to us. And in that process, we gather treasures to keep for the rest of our lives. Wisdom to keep, memories to hold, reflections to cherish. It's really profound, and it comes from something Leah said to me last summer, invoking the term seed keeping and speaking of the Magician's Table as seed keeping rather than seed growing or seed cultivating. And this meditation on the Magician's Table just really cracked me open, and I so loved spending time with Leah and Rachel, who I'll introduce in a moment, who really dropped in to their heart-led wisdom and their brilliance to share with you some things about what the Magician's Table means to them. For those of you who've been following the Magician's Table over the years, maybe, listener, you've participated in it. Maybe you're about to. Maybe you will in the future, in unknown timings. You know that this question, this meditation, this contemplation, like just what is the Magician's Table? What is this medicine? Is something that we live into And it's something that I can't presume to fully know or understand because it really belongs to everyone who moves through it, who's impacted by it. It's hard to pin down into language. And I love to meditate on this with alums because I can't know what it's like to participate. That's just not a thing that I can do. I'm pretty intuitive and empathic person, so I can imagine and I can feel it in my body. I can gather testimony. I can listen. And I can attune and identify with what it might be like. And, the truth is, I created it for my younger self to give her an experience. And those who come to it are those who have a part of them who will also crave to know that experiences like this can exist in this world. So it's always a high sensation kind of wild thing for me to receive these types of testimonies because they're just so beautiful and the magic is real. All right, so logistically, let me remind you, this is coming out tomorrow. This is coming out Thursday, the 20th of February. So when you hear this, if you listen right away, we will be a week out from the doors opening, where I send the link to apply to this year's Magician's Table to those that are on the wait list. That wait list is significantly bigger than the number of spots available. Now, not everyone will apply that's on the wait list, but my invitation to you is if you're feeling called, please get on the wait list and please intend to apply within the first 24 hours of me sending the link out on February 27th at 6:45 p.m. Central Time. The link will go out. It's a Google form. I will have already shared with you, if you're on the wait list, the questions, so you can just drop them in, submit, and move on. It is complete. This application is a spell. So dream big, be audacious, be brave, be bold, be loving with yourself, and be loving with yourself as a fractal to the collective. Think bigger than yourself. Because what you call in with that spell will happen bigger than you can even imagine. And I invite you to leave a whole swath of that mystery to the unknown so that you can be amazed and delighted. And keep it real open. Because what you'll find inside the table is a lot of those expectations that we humans bring based on conditioning and thinking about like who we have to be of value. That starts to get real deconditioned in the space. And so some of those expectations just drop away as the table is telling you not to worry about those things. And rather, the table puts in front of you what it wants you to see. And it's pretty special. Whether you are returning, having done it before, or whether it's your first time. So there are 5 cohorts for this year, each of 12. And it's important that you notice the time for the cohorts so that you can identify which is the one that you can attend, because you need to attend them. If you're constellating your body towards this doorway, it's important that you understand that you have to come to your weekly meetup. That's part of the potency of the magic. So please look at those time zones. Read about the 13th readers that hold the cohorts. And then in the application, select the one or several that work for you, because you need maximum working. If you miss one or two, it's okay, but that's really it. And please know going into this that you will be exchanging readings or creative offerings every single week with a different person in your cohort. So the basic prerequisite that you need to name that you can do in the application is to be at that 90-minute meetup and to do the exchange each week. Your showing up to that creates unfathomable magic. But that is kind of intense, so this is the only container where I'm really bossy about this. Normally I'm like, asynchronous is amazing. But this is one where I'm like, no, you have to come. If you don't think you can come, don't sign up, because it's the showing up that does the magic, not just for you, but for the others in your group. So you need to think about how it's not just you that is missing something by not attending or by not following through. It's the whole group. And the vast majority of magicians understand this going in. So that's part of why I have the application too, is so that you can reflect back to me that you understand this, so that you can bring your commitment to your group. And your following through with that is going to create magic for you that you can't even anticipate. All right, so let me turn to this conversation. It's so good, I want to hop in. Let's do the bios first. There's Leah and Rachel here. Leah Roberts, she, they, is an Aquarian-identified intuitive, care worker, grief tender, and retired physician rooted in the healing capacity of relational energy and embodied connection with other humans, our more than human kin, and the unseen. Leah is devoted to befriending and tending to grief as a potent invitation towards aliveness, loving compassion, and collective liberation. Drawing upon a deep well of life experience, years of holding space professionally and leaning into the lineages of Western community herbalism and politicized somatics, among others, Leah uses a broad skill set to toggle between companion and guide so that clients may feel held, seen, and supported. Among their many teachers, Leah credits plants and trees who model easeful reciprocity with the gift of their breath, and whales who embody the ancestral wisdom of movement and wayfinding in deep waters. Located on the homelands of Cheyenne, Ute, and Arapaho peoples in what is now known as Colorado, Leah is excited to connect by email for individual work or group facilitation inquiries at leah.fox.roberts@gmail.com. You can find Leah's email in the show notes. Thank you, Leah. What a beautiful bio. And then Rachel. Rachel is an intuitive guide who weaves dream interpretation, astrology, energy healing, and psychism to support others in the present moment. Through her deep relationships with angels and guides, she brings forth messages of encouragement and insight. Metaphysical principles shape her interpretations, allowing her to illuminate patterns, possibilities, and deeper truths. By pulling on the threads of connection, Rachel creates space for curiosity, discovery, and transformation, helping others access the wisdom already within them. She believes these practices are not just personal but communal, meant to be experienced in fellowship, enriching both individual and collective growth. So you can find Rachel at Oracle Next Door on Instagram and oraclenextdoor.com. Thank you so much, Rachel. All right. Enjoy this conversation and meditation on seed keeping. Thank you so much. Welcome to Moon, Leah and Rachel. Thank you so much for being here.
So excited.
So I invited you on to come on to speak about your experiences with the Magician's Table last year. But first, I'd love to share with listeners how we know each other, how we connected. And both of you, I feel like I've known for several years. I can't remember exactly when we connected. Do you?
Yeah,
Feel free to.
I have a specific recollection of running across something at the end of 2022, I believe, on Instagram, and it was surrounding seeding the year. And we share a mutual dislike for the way we use potential in our world, as this thief of the present moment. And so I really connected to that and started, following your voice. And then I did transformation with you in the year of, I think, 2023 into 2024. So yeah,
Yes.
that was my down the Britain rabbit hole experience.
And I remember that one of our last sessions, transformation was my old one-on-one long-term container. You had shared, or I had asked you if you were thinking about the magician's table, and you had just pulled the magician card, right? Something like this? Or you did after our call?
So I have a dear friend who has an uncanny knack for choosing incredible paper objects to send to me. And I have a thing for paper. So I got this card in the mail that was a fox as the magician on the front in a visual of the tarot card. And Fox is my middle name. And so it was sort of swirling around, and I hadn't envisioned myself in the space until there were all these synchronicities surrounding that conversation. And yeah, it was a really potent moment of, okay, I guess this is calling me and I'll go where I'm called. But yeah, it was really special.
Yes, we spent a lot of time together. We are born very close, like 2 weeks apart, the same
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
So we have a lot of similar placements because the planets hadn't shifted that much between our birthdays. And you're about to have yours.
Very much so. Next
Yeah.
18th.
Happy birthday. And Rachel, we met in person, right? In Dallas here.
I was asking my partner Jordan about this the other day because he's the one that found you for me. He connected us by getting me a reading from you in 2020, September of 2020. And he was really looking to make my birthday special for me. And he really had this strong desire for me to have an astrology mentor or teacher who was within my community. So he did a lot of research and found the articles in D magazine and visited your website and reached out to you. And he wasn't pushy, but he was he really wanted to make this connection happen for me. So he asked you if you would do your consult in person. So we met on my birthday that year, and you did my consult in person, which was just a really neat experience. And I received my year ahead reading. And for, I think, the rest of that year, I was just kind of in the shadows, like listening to the podcast, taking that in. And then I began to join containers. I think my first container with you was Notes from the Underground, which I was super
Oh,
excited.
wow. That old cave space. Yeah.
Yes, I was like, I'm going
2022
to hell.
or 2021, I think, even
Yes.
Scorpio season. Hmm.
So I was in that before doing astrology as praxis. And then I couldn't get enough, and I did Moon to Moon right after that. And then the Magician's Table.
And I feel like you almost did the Magician's Table 2022 or 3, but like you were already in astrology as praxis, so it was a little much. So you put it off, right?
Yes,
Something
there
like
were
this.
2 years that you had reached out to me in 2022 and 2023, and both times I was like, I wanted to do it so bad. I wanted it, but I had other commitments, and I had to say no both times. And then this last year, the day enrollment opened, I signed up. Was like, she's not going to ask me a third time. This is the year. And I signed up like day one or day two. I was just like full body yes, all in.
Mm, that's so sweet, y'all. And you ended up in the same cohort
Yes,
with
ma'am.
Nicole as your 13th reader, Nicole Francisco. You're the evening cohort, uh, as you were known. Wow, thanks for sharing those reflections. I'd love to hear you share with listeners a little bit more about kind of the journey to the doorway in terms of feeling into an offering or a modality or like what am I gonna be doing in there? Partnering, what? The kind of the journey to like I want to do it, but I don't, sometimes there's these question marks around, but what are my qualifications or like what are my gifts or um am I really a good fit for this? I'm curious to know sort of before you got there how you worked with these question marks and came to a yes sort of anyway. Um, just yeah, which whoever wants to go first, just dive in.
So I think for me, I remember first hearing about TMT in 2023 and thinking, my immediate thought when I heard, this is a circle for emerging readers, is it landed in a place in me that said, okay, this is for people who have their capital A authority feeling uh, in something that they're going to offer. And that's not where I am. I was sort of in a place of actively divesting from a long professional career where I was positioned as a capital A authority, and it did not at all feel attractive. And so by the time 2024 rolled around, I had worked through a lot of that. What does this capital A authority really mean? And really what I came to see TMT as, and this deepened as it went on, is that it is a place for your inner authority to be heard, to be witnessed, to be seen, to be held. And it acts like an incubator. And I mean that in like the truest literal sense of a warm inviting space where you're like bumping around with your fellow little ones, and I don't mean little ones in a pejorative sense, but just the inner authority that everyone is growing is warm and held and able to be seen, to be put out there, to be reflected back to you. And that was a really pivotal difference, is not feeling like I had to be a capital A authority. I just needed to be open and willing to let my inner authority be seen and be heard. And if I was able to be vulnerable in that way, then whatever was coming through didn't have to be the same thing with every person or a specific thing right off the bat. It could evolve, it could grow, it could look different each time. And it would meet the person it was meeting in the way that we both needed at that time. And trusting that grew over the course of the time. But it did take having the desire to let my inner authority, to trust that it would be a warm place for that inner authority. And I think, for me, that was a function of time and getting to know your containers and trust. And trust isn't an easy thing sometimes, but it felt consistently right, and I was sort of getting all of the little nods from the universe that I could trust, and it ended up being incredibly supportive because I was willing to make that investment of trust.
Leah, thank you so much. Would you feel comfortable sharing kind of your background of outer authority, shall we say? And
Sure.
like what you were offering people in your like in the past and what you began wanting to offer as you entered the door of Magician's Table from that inner place.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I'm proud to say that I am a retired physician, and I say that as a mid 40s person, even though that sounds early, because I'll never go back. And so that was how, I was holding space for a lot of people in transition and crisis and emergency. Emergency medicine was my background, and the Magician's Table ended up being a space where I could show up as the person I worked so hard to decompartmentalize, like with all of myself, with an integrated voice rather than the compartmentalized way I had to show up for folks in the past, and hold space in a way that honored all parts of me and all parts of them. And I did that through a reading that really involved an ecosystem. Um, Part of my journey of decompartmentalization is looking at the ecosystem in which we all function. And even when I pull cards, I think about the cards around that card or the ecosystem in which it lives, because I feel like a single card can be really reductionist. And so my readings, and I'm also very plant oriented. So I read in a way that I used the Dirt Gems deck, which is a plant oracle, and then looked at the ecosystem in which that plant lives and also how it grows. So looking at the ways it moves through its life cycle and what surrounds it, and how that might be supportive for the ecosystem of what the person is wanting to look at for the reading. And that felt like a really nice way to draw on multiple pillars of support, right? We all need lots of points of contact and lots of points of support in our lives. And I like to be a bridge for looking at how broad that web of support is. And that's, when I initially went into the Magician's Table, I thought, oh, I'm going to do, sort of shamanic journeying divination. And then it ended up totally different. I made sort of a spur of the moment, or had some spur of the moment inspiration right before one of our first meetings that was like, no, I really want to look at this web, this ecosystem, and help people feel into the web and the ecosystem of what's available when we can bring all of ourselves and let all of ourselves be there and love all of ourselves.
Mm.
So that's what ended up coming through.
Mm. Thank you. And you had several plant witches, shall we say, in your cohort. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm
Um,
really lucky that way.
yeah. Rachel, what came up for you?
Could you, what was the question again?
Oh, the original question. Let's like take it back. It- something like coming to coming to your yes in part is like accepting or rooting into whatever you might want to give as an offering, even though you know it may change while you're in there. Because I think um, for many, it can be a piece that holds one back or like makes might make someone feel like they don't belong to it or they're not ready for it. If they're like, well, I don't know exactly what my reading is going to be, or I don't know exactly what my offering is going to be. And and so I think hearing from individuals as they went through that process for themselves can be really supportive and trusting that it doesn't need to look like maybe we sometimes think it needs to look to say yes or to be ready.
Yep, absolutely. I'm really feeling into like the courage and like having the curiosity and taking the opportunity to be witnessed in community and really having that strong desire, even though I had no idea what I was going to. I didn't have it like perfectly packaged. I'd never done anything like this professionally, um, as some people have, which can feel a little bit intimidating if you've not done that. But I'd grown in my, I guess, my playfulness and in my um, desire to just be in community and to see what happened. I knew I had all these tools and interests and things that I'd cultivated over time. My background is I spent 3 years as a student of metaphysics. So coming in with those principles and those skills and like dream interpretation, I've also am a certified Reiki practitioner. I've played with tarot cards for years and years. I love my runes. I've been experimenting with channeling and reading Akashic records, and I didn't know what I would be doing. And I went in doing one thing for like the first 3 or 4 partners that I had. So I was like, well, people don't really have runes. A lot of people don't read runes. Like I could do that and it would be different and, see how it feels. So I began um, channeling just to begin my reading and then going into a rune reading, and one of my dogs ended up eating one of my runes. So it was like, okay, well,
Oh
you're not
dear.
you're not doing that anymore. Um, and I really hadn't even thought about bringing Reiki into the mix, but in the moment, it was like, well, this is your time. This is your chance to experiment with it. And I combined looking at astrology and progress charts and um, doing a virtual Reiki session at the end, and people seemed to, really like that. They felt like it integrated the the astrology aspect of it. And then I began to realize how much of my Reiki was actually um, connecting to my abilities to channel and this psychic element that I hadn't named. And still a little apprehensive to like claim, but it's something that completely and totally excites me. So it definitely evolved over time throughout the whole grand experiment. And it was lovely to have people there who are just so supportive and ready to receive whatever it is that you're ready to give in the moment. And it doesn't have to look the same for every person. So, yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, you're taking me back to even like astrology as praxis days when you would start to talk, I start to kind of just like merge with your voice and go into this channel space with you. Oh, yeah, the channeling I can feel is so strong with both of you. Um, well, thank you. So the topic that I've gathered us here today for really came from, I guess, Leah, it was either a culminating transformation session or it was like a post TMT coaching. And you said that TMT was more like, is the term seed keeping or seed storing? What is the word that you use?
Seed keeping.
Keeping. And I was like, can you keep talking? Because this is important. And that was like August or something. I have been dreaming to keep having this conversation with you. And then it turned out Rachel also had a similar experience with this. And this just feels really special. And I'd love to just, Leah, since it came out of you first last August, maybe you can just let's relive that conversation and what you were describing back then, especially in distinction to or in contrast to or going beyond an idea of like seed growing or like seed. Yeah, I'm actually just going to hand it to you because you're a plant witch.
Yeah, I am. And, so much of what has come up in our conversations in the past is so emergent that I'm like trying to remember what exactly.
Yeah, right.
But
What did I say?
what's here with me today. So part of the context too was that I worked on a farm all of last summer. And so relationship to the plants and reciprocity with plants was with me very strongly throughout my TMT experience, even though we wrapped up at the solstice. That was an intense time of plant growth. And much like one of the first things that connected me to you was voicing the idea of why potential in the way we use it is harmful, it's because we are talking about ourselves in this moment as a means to an end and focusing on that end. And I think we often talk about seeds in that way. Seeds are an entity that store all of this memory, and we talk about them often as this thing that we're trying to get to this other end, rather than the complete entity that they are. And the context of the conversation that you and I were having is this is after TMT has wrapped up, and there's often this sort of sense that, okay, I'm emboldened by having been witnessed in community, and I feel like I need to offer this in a way that kind of pressurizes it can be pressurizing. And so I think a lot, myself included, and I think other folks sort of come out of TMT feeling like I need to be offering immediately. And the truth is that TMT can be the seed that you're keeping with the memory of what it is to be witnessed and to be held and to be incubated. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a means to an end. It doesn't have to be planted in the way you feel like it might need to be planted as soon as you finish. There is a culmination energy, which is normal, as things wrap up. But the beauty of a seed is it carries knowledge of the challenges that formed it. And it also carries the memory of the things that supported it as it was formed. And I don't think there has to be a timeline on that. And I think there can be a way that we pressurize ourselves towards the end of TMT or just after TMT. And so for me, it was just this potent reminder that having that seed and carrying that seed as a memory of what that witnessing was like, what that hall of mirrors was like. And I called it that several times in our meetings because it is this experience where you're witnessing another in a reading. They are witnessing you in their reading. And then you're joining together and you're seeing them and they're voicing their experience of seeing you. So it becomes this like fun house of mirroring. And our mirror neurons are firing and we're all feeling each other deeply. And it's okay for that to be a stored memory and for that to be something you carry with you. And maybe, and it will likely become other things in your life. But I think for me, it was a way of giving myself permission to know when the conditions are that seed wants to become something else rather than pressurizing it in that moment. And I just love the idea of carrying it with me, it having stored all of that information and all of that wisdom and the ways that it will grow and the challenges and blessings it will experience aren't known to me right now. And they don't have to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and many of us are cut off from seed keeping tradition, even as a thing in itself. Like, what is seed keeping? Like many of us, including me, are like, wait, what? Um,
And
but
storing
yeah.
that memory in our body of a supportive experience where your inner authority was honored and mirrored back to you is priceless. And we're all storing things that are painful, I mean, we know this. And it is a way to build that bodily memory of storing how it feels to be held and how it feels to
Mm-hmm.
be warmly received in your inner authority. And that is worth cultivating in and of itself. It doesn't need to be another thing later on.
Thank you so much, Leah.
So,
Mm.
Like, how do you follow that? Oh, that was so beautiful. And I feel like you just released so much pressure from past and present and future experiences, in saying what you just said, because I do feel like there is a pressure to come out of it knowing exactly what you're going to do and monetizing it, monetizing the experience and what you've learned. And you can definitely do that. And you're right, there is this emboldenedness, this fire that you feel like this wave, you can continue to ride with it. And even afterwards, like I got my website up and going. I started trying to structure offerings. I started putting myself out there and kind of having this expectation of like a trajectory with it. And like going back to the idea of it being a seed and like what you plant in the beginning during the whole my TMT process, I felt called to propagate seeds. So I started cultivating, I'd chosen yellow bell peppers. And over the weeks, I, I planted them, I watered them, I watched them sprout, and some of them didn't make it. And I transferred them, and even fewer made it. And in the end, all of them died. you know, but I noticed something growing, like kind of in my periphery in a different section of my garden where I hadn't planted anything. And over time, realized that it was a red bell pepper plant. And it's like I didn't even plant that. I wasn't focused on it. I wasn't giving it my attention, yet it grew, and it's beautiful. They're delicious. It wasn't what I expected, but totally welcome here. And my mind does like to analyze that in a bit of a dream interpretation way, like how I was focused on cultivating these yellow bell peppers, and I was really focused on the sun and my solar self and being seen and being received in this community and allowing myself to have that experience and to really build and grow my confidence in that. And as I did that, as I was focused on the sun, these roots grew, these like red rooted roots. And that's what like having the light of the sun or that mirror reflection on you really can, one of the many things that it can do for you, and something I'm still really receiving the benefits of and experimenting with as I continue to put myself out into my community and tell people that I love astrology and oracle cards and dream interpretation and letting people see me and receive me in that light. I feel more rooted into and secure in who I am.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow.
Rachel, what you just spoke to made me think of the way that there's so much co-creation happening sometimes, even in our periphery, right? And I just love thinking about all of the magic that we aren't necessarily efforting so much into, that's still happening, right? And all the growth and change and cycle that is still there, even if we're focusing on a specific outcome. It's really beautiful, right? All the ways you can be surprised.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think like the topic of expectation is such such a like thick one with the magician's table and with any kind of container that is going to be really magical and it involves building something. There can be an expectation about what that's supposed to look like. And I feel like part of it seems from watching this again and again that part of the magician's table's medicine is to help you learn to work with expectation differently. Is that something that you felt to be true?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that's part of why I ended up being intuitively drawn towards an ecosystem approach, because it truly is an ecosystem.
Mhm.
No matter what I was carrying into it as an expectation, it was unfolding in a way that was really about the ecosystem. You know, everyone's expectations meeting and alchemizing into something that is very different than what any of the single 13 people could come up with on their own, you know? And so I think that is where the incubator element helps in that um, it is just really a way to be gentle and kind with each other. And that was my experience of it. So you can sort of lay down your expectations and offer them to the altar of alchemy that is occurring in that ecosystem, because
Mm.
you're feeding each other in ways that you alone could not have imagined. And so you have to surrender to what pressures and blessings the ecosystem will bring. Um, and that again goes back to like the trust of being willing to do that and know that life is happening for everybody during that time. I had a surgery very early on, and for the first month was recovering and needing to be very focused. It was interesting, but I needed to be very focused on digestion because of the nature of the surgery. And so I'm also like digesting this idea of what my expectations were as I'm slowly moving into this journey with the first couple of partners and seeing what's going to come out the other end. uh, yeah. So it was just the alchemy of it is something that um, I think can't be overstated in the sense that you need to know that you will have to lay down your expectations because they will be alchemized by the ecosystem. They just will.
Mm. Mm. I'm curious, like, speaking of trust, for so many, some of our deepest pain comes from community groups, ecosystems of belonging. How how do you, having witnessed it, how did you move through surrendering into trust with mostly individuals that you didn't had never met before on arrival?
I definitely have something in mind, Rachel, but I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I wanna step back if you've got something on the tip of your tongue there.
Oh no, I was fully prepared to let you let you roll with it.
Hmm. Well, part of, and of course, after saying that, I just lost it. But so part of what happened for me very early on, as I mentioned, like I had this surgery, I'm focused on digestion, and there were a few sort of early meetups where I became aware that I had this expectation in myself that my magic is pretty, looks good. And by that I meant also feels good. And I was very much in a place of this surgery was painful. The things I need to be conscious of surrounding it are tedious and painful and difficult. And if I'm going to show up here, I have to be honest about that. And it's still magic. Like, look at my body healing. Look at me still showing up to this. Look at me um, paying attention to this digestion piece and moving through what I'm metaphorically digesting and physically digesting. And that, and not that anybody else is going to reproduce that experience, but I think there are ways that the first few weeks call you into some sort of way of digesting whether what you're bringing looks pretty enough to be considered magical, you know? Um, and and I think that invitation is there just because of the alchemy of it, because you are being warmly received, and what you offer is being reflected back to you. So you are invited into this way of um, knowing that your magic doesn't have to look a certain way. It is not outside you, it is in you, and it will come through. um, it's not something you do for an hour a week or for the meetup. It is who you are and how you live, and it moves through you and out of you, and it is this constant flow. It is not something you have to produce and package in a way that's palatable.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, Rachel, do you have anything you would want to add?
Yeah, as far as like the pairings and showing up in a community of mostly strangers, I will say there is some innate wisdom to the order of the pairings. I don't know how or what kind of sorcery is behind the timing of the pairings, but that my first pairing with Nicole Markson was just, we were able to just both show up and just be ourselves. And there was a comfortability or I don't know, there was just something really unpressurized about it. We both made this commitment to show up for each other for 30 minutes and see what happens. And the person you're paired with on the other end of that is just there to receive and there to support you. And I mean, and that's in my mind what you would be bringing to the table yourself. Just be there to show up and to give and to receive. And um, I think the community of hearts that you're placed within will mirror that for you. And you can kind of come into the process trusting that. Even though our nervous systems may be a little dysregulated by like the newness of it all, there really is just a beautiful magic to it. Um, and then we talked about like expectations, and it makes me think about like parents and their children, or this seed. Like you go in with this expectation for it to be this like tall, beautiful thing that you planted in this one area, or you want certain things for your children or for your friends, and it's not really yours to decide. You know, it has an intelligence of its own, and I would say from my own experience that there there's always something deeper. Like you think you want to maybe do this professionally, or you need to do this professionally, but maybe what you're really wanting is to feel witnessed in community. Maybe
Hmm.
just wanting to be more of yourself. Um, find out what that is. And maybe you're just needing to play, there's another intelligence, I'd say, behind your yes, like behind the desire to do the thing. You're having those feelings and you're having that pull because you're wanting to experience something new. something different. Like that's why your heart's beating out of your chest when you think about it, or that's why you're getting sweaty and nervous. It's, there's something else there.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I feel like you really hit on something there. Yeah, it's almost like the expectation is tied to the more like maybe logical reason for the yes, but underneath it all, there's something else driving you for you to meet. And some parts of us may have feelings about that. Or like, no, but I wanted this to be the thing that, yeah, there can definitely be a wrestle with um, the different parts of us that we're all contributing to the yes to be there. And they all have these different parts of us, maybe different takeaways or like um, different ideas about the end, different ideas about the post period. And we are complicated human beings. We humans. Hmm.
I remember a meetup where I was talking about all these different parts that were sort of having different experiences and speaking to it as like the council of me, they kept just seeing this table, and all these parts around it. And, it can be a very activating time for all the different parts. And it's such an invitation to welcome them all and let them sit at the table. Um, and they don't necessarily run the meeting or develop, the after plan. But it's, there's a lot of heart and soul in that space. And the sheer amount that's coming through those spaces can be very activating for some of the more logic driven members of the council. Uh-huh. Yeah.
There have been many analogies like, what is the table of magician's table? This is the new one. The table is the table for all your parts.
Yeah, exactly. And the 13th reader is there like, hey, okay, here all of you, and we're still gonna end on time.
Yeah. And like, all right, you, that part, your timer's up.
Mhm.
That's the mic.
Exactly. You got 5 minutes.
Yeah. Your whale self now would like to speak. Yes, that's so sweet. Yeah, I've heard from different magicians over the years that I think everyone's a little different in terms of some finding the container itself the place of greatest activation, and others finding the activation came like in a time delay, like it like has different timelines of activation. And I I just trust that that's all part of the business of the medicine between the magician and their own relationship with the table.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, life is happening for everybody, right? You have all sorts of life
Hmm.
things that are happening alongside all the magic. And that is part of that integrating, like that the magic isn't a separate thing. Um, the magician's table gives you a space for your magic to flow and to be held for all of your life, to be held inside the magic that it is, and that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of other things going on. And so it can be hard to hold all of it. And I think the number somehow is the perfect number of people to help you hold it too, you know? Um, and then receiving the gift of other people's input and wisdom every week is incredibly supportive, no matter what's going on in your magical life outside of the magical space, even when it feels less than magical. So it is really a divinely timed sort of thing, whether you're talking about the pairings or what's unfolding in your life or what you become aware needs to unfold. Um, it's a really special space.
To that, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to add something that seems really obvious, but I hadn't even considered when signing up. It was all, my thought process was all about me getting this experience and me like giving readings. And I had never really stopped to think about how much you receive inside the container. You have signed yourself up for weekly readings, and that is like so exciting because we are all going through so much. I mean, we're still humans. We still, we've got family things and work things and personal health things, and you're signing up to also receive readings and guidance from these other magical beings that you've chosen to somehow magically constellate with on a regular basis. And just what a gift that is that you're giving to yourself.
Mm.
Gift of receiving is a huge part of the value of the space, and building that bodily memory inside your seed of what it feels like to receive, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm. Yeah, coming back to that theme again. Mhm. Oh, so beautiful. Y'all, thank you so much for sharing yourselves and sharing about your time. There any things that you were hoping to say that you wanted to be sure to say before we closed?
I would like to say that if there's anyone out there who feels a spark, follow it, you know, just really follow it. You can lay down all the rest of the bits, you know, at the altar of the magic and just see. But if you feel a spark and you have the means, do it. You know, really do it. Give it, give that to yourself. See what you will receive. You can't imagine what you're going to receive. So just see what happens when you lay it down and let it go. You know, just see where that spark takes you.
Yeah, I'll piggyback and I guess just add that if you are just feeling called and feeling any level of like nervousness or anxiousness around it, kind of going into it with a spirit of experimentation on the foundation of love and being ready to just be curious about what happens throughout and after the entire process. Just give yourself the opportunity to play and meet new people who will support you in that endeavor.
Thank you. Please, y'all, share with listeners how they can connect with you and hear your voice or work with you, whatever comes up and feels alive to share.
You want to go ahead, Rach, or do you want?
Sure. I'm on Instagram. I'm at Oracle Next Door. Honestly, I don't know what my posting frequency will be there, but if there is anything new, I will post it there, and you can just join my community, be in my space there. I do have a local event coming up at the Sunshine Yoga Shack, the Sunshine Day of Wellness in Mansfield, where I'll be leading a dream interpretation circle. So we'll just be in community, like sharing our dreams with each other. And there will be Ayurveda and sound baths and Reiki and chakra meditation. So I'm really passionate about just meeting people in my community. Come do aerial yoga with me. But that'll be April 12th at 12:30. You can find the information on their website. I'll also post it on my Instagram.
Thank you. I'll include it in the show notes.
Yay!
Just gonna say, I wish I could come be in your circle that day. That sounds amazing. So I'm kind of a word of mouth person. So thank you for this opportunity to get some word of mouth out there. I can be reached by email, which I think Britton, do you mind linking that in the show notes?
I will.
My care work has a lot of different modalities to it. It might involve Western herbalism, might involve Reiki, divination. I see myself as somewhere between a guide and a companion. I think there are times we maybe just want someone to go somewhere else with us, and that would bring support. And other times we want somebody to maybe help us out with places that they've been that we're scared to go. And I'm happy to help others with that. Grief is also a specialty of mine, grief and loss and change and cycles. And the good news is that applies to everybody. So I would love to connect with anybody that feels resonant for.
I'm so grateful for this time with you. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you, Britton.
Thank you.
So good to see both of your faces.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much, Leah. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with Moon to Moon and with me these past years. Listeners, if you are feeling called to the table, I'm inviting you to sign up for the waitlist through the show notes. If you're not already on it, you probably already are. But if you aren't, inviting you now. You also get a free gift when you join. It gives you a taste of the kinds of invitations that are in the Magician's Table that you get every single week from me. I made all new teachings called Burning Through the Freeze that can help you tap into your fire, because Magician's Table is all about working with the elements. The elements on your table as the magician with your cup, wand, sword, and pentacle, the wand being the fire element. For working with freeze states, that feeling of just like, I'm not moving, I'm procrastinating, I said I was going to do this stuff and I'm just not, like I feel frozen, I feel stuck. I share with you how I work with the various signs, particularly the fire signs and the planets that rule them. And I also have a special chapter on Vesta, who is a goddess frequency and a teacher and an archetype and an asteroid that you can look up in your chart. And Vesta is so helpful at tapping into devotional fire, which feels especially relevant for 2025's Magician's Table, because our theme this year is the devotion that's driving you. And Vesta is like, oof, I don't know that there's anything more devotional than Vesta. So really in love with Vesta, and I just loved creating that new teaching on Vesta for the free workshop. It's not free for those that are not interested in the Magician's Table. And I really appreciate when people just pay for it, knowing that, they're not interested in the Magician's Table. So, yeah, it's $25 if you just want to buy it. And you can do that by clicking the link below. It'll just take you straight to Teachable, where you can do the exchange, and then it's all ready to go. There's no live. It's all just set, so you can just gobble it up right now. And if you feel like you are frustrated with freeze, please dive in. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope this was supportive. I hope it felt yummy to your bones. Sending lots of love your way, big hugs, and until next time, thank you for being here.